Welcome to Storytime with Raccoon. We explore stories that may or may not be real, but are comically funny at times, and retell them raccoon style. Now, sit back and enjoy Storytime with Raccoon. Sorry about that, buddy. Let me rephrase that. Welcome to Storytime with Raccoon and Clifford. Was that okay? Many of the stories in Raccoon's library are about a man named Inever Toldthetruth. I thought I might give you an introduction to this man and his life so you will know more about him. So, without further ado, here is the introduction to Inever Toldthetruth. Inever Toldthetruth was born to Jeannie Betty and her husband Carpenter Bill. Inever also has a brother, Bobbin Michaels. Inever was born into a family of drug and alcohol addiction. When he was just 8, his mother, Jeannie Betty, was on drugs badly and his father, Carpenter Bill, stayed drunk on alcohol. His father left Jeannie Betty and Inever and took Bobbin with him. Jeannie Betty and Inever were left to take care of themselves. Jeannie Betty needed money, so she sold Inever to a neighbor to cover her addiction and was later sent to jail. Inever was taken and made a ward of the court. Inever was pushed around from home to home. He eventually made some friends with some men in the crack house next door to where he was living. They gave him a job selling hot dogs. He sold his hot dog to anyone that wanted it. His hot dogs were always piping hot, so he showed his customers how to blow on them so they could eat them. This changed everything for Inever. He had something he could give to anyone, and they gave back in return. When Inever was a teen, a man named Mervyn took him in at the House of Harvest. Mervyn taught Inever how to make it on the streets. Inever told Mervyn of his hot dog business, and Mervyn was very interested. Mervyn had Inever teach all the residents of the House of Harvest about the hot dog business. When Inever was 24, he met a young, cross-eyed beauty named Dawnfanny. Dawnfanny moved into the House of Harvest when she was just 14. Before that, she was living with her aunt and uncle. They passed away, and she was forced to move into the House of Harvest with her father, Mervyn. Dawnfanny and Inever would sneak away at night. Inever might have had all the know-how in the hot dog business, but Dawnfanny had the know-how on fermenting pickles. Each night, Inever would teach Dawnfanny about his hot dog business and making sure she knew how to blow on it if it was too hot. Dawnfanny taught Inever the process needed to ferment pickles. It was apparent that Inever hadn't been to a pickle factory before. He was only experienced in hot dogs. Dawnfanny explained to him that each time a pickle was made, the jar got bigger to hold more pickles, and the more pickles that were produced, the bigger the pickle jar. Inever had no idea that the middle tunnel of the factory was the pickle jar. He had only been in the back alleyway of the hot dog factory and had no idea that a pickle factory had more entrances than just a back door. He was astonished. Together, they explored and documented the ins and outs of the pickle business. Inever and Dawnfanny found that through their explorations and documentations, they had made their first pickle. Now, remember, Dawnfanny wasn't even 16 yet, but even at that young age, she knew how to bake a pickle. Mervyn said that Inever and Dawnfanny would be a more productive pickle factory if they were to get married. So shortly after they found out there was a pickle in the jar, Inever and Dawnfanny were married by Mervyn. It was a beautiful ceremony with limited decorations of the country's flag as a backdrop. All 10 of their friends from the House of Harvest were there, and they had Donald Max cater the special occasion with burgers and French fries. The happy couple moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment in the basement of the House of Harvest. When their first little pickle, Divinity, was born, they decided they needed more room but couldn't move out just yet. Shortly after Divinity was born, they produced 3 more pickles, Braden, Lacey May, and Zoe. The House of Harvest was shut down because Mervyn was sent to jail for doodling. Everyone at the House of Harvest had to find another place to live. Inever and Dawnfanny didn't have enough money to find another place, so they took their 4 little pickles and moved into a tent in the woods. They called it an adventure because little Lacey May was always losing a shoe. One day while in the woods, a stray dog came upon them and they decided to keep him. The tent was full and there was no room for anyone or anything else. They scavenged for food and found tin cans to trade in for money. Dawnfanny knew that the money they had from the tin cans wouldn't be enough, and with winter quickly approaching, they had to do something to get into a warm place for the little pickles. So, Inever did what he knew best. He opened up his hot dog business again. He made decent money and they moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Wackachil. It was a quaint little triplex, right beside a junkyard. In one bedroom, they had bunk beds 3 high, and in the other bedroom the mattress was on the floor. Inever's thoughts were, why get a bed frame when you can buy cameras and computer equipment? Plus, Dawnfanny was expecting another pickle. Little Boa would come into the house of pickles soon. Inever put up cameras inside and out of the apartment because he was afraid of the shills, and he felt that if the cameras were up, they wouldn't bother him. He and Dawnfanny decided to homeschool the little pickles because they wanted to teach them all the things they wouldn't get in a public school education. They learned about the shills and how they take everyone's money. They learned how to operate computer equipment, how to film, how to stalk, and how to find trolls on TubeU. They even got lessons on how to flog for the shills. The skills that they have gained from Inever and Dawnfanny will help them when they grow older in finding jobs in the stalking and filming industry. One night, Inever was online as usual when he came across a blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty named Candy Kisses. He and Candy Kisses would chat and send each other pictures. These pictures were not something a married man should be sending or receiving over the internet or anywhere for that matter. Dawnfanny did not know anything about it at first because she was so busy with the 4 pickles and fermenting another one. One evening, after getting the pickles fed and ready for bed, and after cleaning up the kitchen and doing some laundry, Dawnfanny was thirsty. She went into the kitchen to get some water and heard a familiar, whistling laugh coming from the living room. She snuck in there and on the screen she saw Candy Kisses, half-dressed and dancing for Inever. She noticed that Inever was smiling and laughing and whistling through his 2 teeth. She had never seen him this excited before, not even when he was helping make pickles in the pickle jar or when he was blowing on hot dogs that were too hot to eat. When he noticed she was there, he cut off his screen and said he was working on a video, and when he moved his dead feet with his hands, he must have clicked on something that brought that up. He even showed her his search history, which consisted of things such as dancing beauties, how to hide your online activity from your wife, and what to say when you get caught with your pants down. Dawnfanny believed him when he said he wasn't doing anything wrong, but she never quite understood why he was making a video with no pants on. A couple of years later, Inever and Dawnfanny were evicted from their apartment. The landlord said they had too many people living there for a 2-bedroom apartment. He generously gave them 2 months to leave. So, Inever once again opened his hot dog house. Since he was older, he had lost his touch for keeping the weenies warm, and his hot dogs weren't as tasty as they used to be because his ingredients were old. He couldn't get the customer base he had when he was younger, so it took longer days and harder work to get the money. Eventually, he made enough and he and the family moved into a bigger home on a main street in Wackachil. This house was once a lovely little abode, having been on the Wackachil History Register as an old show place. There was a huge fenced-in front yard and a rocky backyard and enough room to park their broken-down van on the side. 3 bedrooms, a living room, a small kitchen, and a room in the back for their homeschool activities. They even had a basement, where Inever would eventually be sent to. The rent was affordable since they were getting help from the Wackachil government, including medical and dental care, although they hardly used the dental or medical care. They also applied for and were accepted for an allowance for food each month. They now had 6 pickles to feed: Divinity, Braden, Lacey May, Zoe, Boa, and Penelope. Their dog that they found in the woods was always hungry too, but they knew the neighbors would feed him. Once they were settled, Inever decided that he had not stalked or filmed anyone in a long time. He went online and couldn't find anyone, so he went outside. He saw a neighbor in the complex across the street and noticed his strong muscles. He noticed that the neighbor worked out every day and was very fit for his age. Oh, how I never wanted and dreamed of looking like that. To have muscles in his arms, to be able to flex like that, and to be able to jump up and down was something he and his dead feet could only dream about. I never noticed that the neighbor, who is known as the strong man, was friendly to everyone and everyone in the neighborhood liked him. This enraged Inever, and being like he was jealous. He was not going to let that happen. So he did what he always did, he resorted to stalking and yelling. The strong man wasn't sure what was wrong with the new neighbor, but he knew he didn't want any part of the craziness that ensued from someone like that. See, the strong man had had his troubles, but he had done better and risen above them and was making a life for himself and his cat. He didn't need the likes of anyone like Inever to destroy that. But Inever had a different plan. Inever started stalking the strong man online, watching his TikToks and his tube views, scouring the internet for his Twitter and head book accounts, looking for anything he could find to use against the strong man. His dog, Clifford, was barking, so he put him on a chain and put him outside. The strong man noticed that Clifford was whining, so he looked to see what was wrong. Poor Clifford was thirsty and was tangled in the chain. The strong man got a fresh bowl of water and walked it over to Clifford. He was helping Clifford get untangled so he wouldn't hurt himself. Many neighbors saw this and offered to help, but the strong man said he had it taken care of. Past his huge biceps and muscular physique, the strong man has a soft heart for animals and will help them anytime he thinks they need it. Once again, this enraged Inever, so he devised a plan. Inever started stalking the strong man online and found out where he worked. Funny thing is, while Inever was stalking the strong man online, Dawnfanny also had her eye on him. She was becoming infatuated with the strong man and her lust for him grew stronger each day. She knew if she got the strong man fired, he would be home and she could watch him more and more each day. So, that is what she did. She destroyed his life for her own sick pleasure. She had so many lustful thoughts that whenever Inever would explore the pickle jar, she was thinking of the strong man, not Inever. That didn't matter though, because Inever was having flashbacks of his hot dog business and how he missed the weenies. Fast forward to today. The strong man will move on and get his life back because he will be away from Inever and Dawnfanny. Inever and Dawnfanny now have 8 pickles: Divinity, Braden, Lacey May, who still loses her one shoe all the time, Zoe, Boa, Penelope, Tart, and Derek. They also have a +1 that they are watching. Inever is looking for someone else's life to destroy, someone else to stalk, someone else to blame for the things that he himself does. Dawnfanny is so distraught that she can no longer see the strong man and his muscles that she has closed up the pickle shop and refuses to open it up again. She has moved to her own bedroom and has told Inever if he wants something, he needs to reopen his hot dog business because her pickle factory is now closed. To this day, there is no proof that he has started his hot dog business again, but word on the street is that if you look really closely at the fence, there is still a hole where he passed his hot dog through back in the day. That's all for today. Come back soon when we listen to another exciting tale from Raccoon's Library.